Hello everyone, this is Daniel Michael from the Main Street Universe Radio Network. And tonight I'm going to talk about Project 225 and about community in general. Now I actually did read through Project 225. Yes, it's 922 pages, folks. I will admit freely that I skimmed through it. It was a lot. In fact, I'm a little tired right now because I was just going through it. My opinion is as follows. In its current written form, it seems to be hiding a little bit behind financial sincerity. It's as if they are coming across as keepers of a sacred truth involving financial endeavors. And there's a good reason for that. The fear that comes out of them and that comes out of this document, to view this therapeutically, comes from an identity link. In the minds of the Christian nationalists, not all Christians, by the way, let me just throw that out there, there is a link to identity and a link to success. So, to a common, let's say a common person, conservative, they would look at Project 225, or at least very large portions of it, and say, gosh, what's everybody freaking out about? You know, here's a document. It sounds like they know what they're talking about anyway, economically. And they're just talking about some good values, etc., etc., etc. But they've linked it, not that that's new, but to success. The idea is, in the minds of the Christian right, that if we fall away from Christian ideals as a nation, then the country's blessing of success will fall away with it. Now, in truth, the founding of this country was in large part by mystics and such. There were quite a few of them were Masons, for example. So, further reading it, as you go on, to be honest, it doesn't come across very aggressive or extreme in any way. It comes across more, as I said, as sort of a certain sacred economic success truth. And it's slightly more, what some people would see as offensive portions of it. And for the record, I don't agree with this document. I am politically independent, by the way. I'm not conservative or liberal. I'm saying this from an independent viewpoint. The loaded parts of it talk specifically about biblically approved families, which of course, you know, that means same-sex marriage. But these things could affect citizens as far as adoption, and they have been used in real-life court cases before, of someone saying a mother couldn't have custody of her kid because she practiced witchcraft. There's all sorts of oddball stories that have happened, and you know they would also play that card, use that same card for, say, a same-sex couple. So that's probably one of the most ominous statements in the whole thing, is discussion of biblically approved families. So this could bleed into also, what is that, families of other religions. There's a lot of mention of Christian or religious liberty in general. But the real truth is that people of that, not all Republicans, by the way, let me be crystal clear about that, but people of the Christian nationalist leaning, they're not interested in, quote, religious liberty, though they use the term a lot. What they're interested in is domination. So let's be clear about that. And back to the identity link, on their talk shows and stuff, they're always talking about being under attack. I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, Christianity is not under attack. There are people that gravitate to other faiths, that's not the same as an attack. They don't like the idea of separation of church and schools. Still, that's not an attack. That's an agreement. That's an agreement we made during the founding of the country. The First Amendment does state that Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So, what that is an agreement that all faiths are welcome, and that the government itself should not establish itself as any particular faith. So moving on, this link to identity, this link to success, is really at the root. It's at the root core of all this. And the root core of the threat is not that it's genuinely some angry manifesto, I'm tired. If you read this thing, what it truly is incremental. It's strategy. And that is something that though in ancient times this wasn't true, that those who are of the pagan, Wiccan faith, if you will, don't exactly have. In fact, even putting the two words, pagan community, together sounds a little funny, and even sounds a little funny for me to say, to be 100% honest. It's a path that's highly individual. Most people claim to be eclectic. Some are part of traditions. That being said, don't get me wrong, please. I'm not being snarky about this. I think it would be a great idea if there was some structural form of unity, whether you call it a religion or not. There's a ton of people of the pagan and Wiccan movement that do not even like the R word. And there are sometimes good reasons for that. And I'm not here for that particular debate. I'm just saying, call it a spiritual group, call it whatever you want to. But if a group isn't united, then they become very easy to pick off. Because you make no mistake, the ones that want to dominate, they have strategy. And as much as you might make fun of them or make Facebook meme posts about silly, stupid things they say, they are strategists and they're good at it. And until you recognize that, then waving your fist in the air and yelling means that you were not prepared. So, what I like to offer, just as some ideas. I don't have all the answers, folks. I'm just saying that other groups in the past, if anyone has ever attempted to marginalize them, or even have genuinely done so, have formed into strong groups. What are some good defense techniques to unify a group? What are some things to do, structures to build? So, I'll start with this. Under this banner of pagan community, we'll start with something I call invisible assets. Our character, our integrity, how we build relationships in communities. If you want to pretend you live on this watery rock all alone, which is an illusion, then don't complain when things don't go your way. And especially if you're showing zero integrity. And yes, integrity takes time. I mean, forget the silly PR stunts, like there were a few famous people saying they're going to cast spells on Donald Trump and all of this. Ego dopamine fix move is all that is. And it makes us look ridiculous. That's my opinion of it. I have no harsh negative energy towards the folks that did that. By the way, how did it go? But it was ridiculous. I'll end my criticism of that there. Show integrity, show some realness, build good relationships, instead of just playing games. Think of things that other groups have. Private schools, universities. You could have foundations, pagan themed foundations. Communal investing. I understand that sounds a little loaded. Certainly, if you're involved in some form of a communal investing, you're going to have to make sure that those involved have good character. In Japan, they have a thing called tonamoshi, the saving circle. And this is just a small example I'm talking about. Folks that do this form of communal investing, which is just private, it's a private agreement of, say, you can take 10 people, they all agree to invest $100 a month, and then now they have this community fund to pull from. There, bam, $1,000 a month shows up. They did a study on this, and even companies in Japan are starting to recommend this practice, corporations and such. People who engage, these studies showed, in communal investing were 75% more likely to meet their financial goals. 75% more likely to meet their financial goals. And that's a small example of small groups, but that's what I'm saying. The building of a large united group through the beginning of small groups. My other suggestion is, and a ton of people will disagree with this, people of my own faith. I'm talking to other pagans right now. Establishing and going to what the other spiritual groups do, back to temple models, back to church models, having things like tithings, donations, then that can branch out into, as I said before, foundations, even schools. Now, when I mention schools, think of, say, for example, a university. There are Christian ones, there are Jewish ones, etc., etc. There are all sorts of different universities of different faiths. Even, let's say, if a pagan one opened up, you wouldn't have to make it all strict and indoctrinating either. It could just be that's part of the theme. Of course, people that lean that way, that's who would most likely go there. But what if they became excellent at something else? Just focusing on being an excellent university, as well as having those themes, as well as having an esoteric or a metaphysical education, and how to apply it to your life. And of course, universities use a lot of sort of Greco-Roman pagan stuff anyway. And certainly in ancient pagan history, they had great, beautiful temples and such like that. But I understand some people say, well, the woods is my church. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to engage with so much fear and anger, when you feel like an enemy's at the gate that wants to dominate you, then by the time you've just posted an angry statement, it's too late. Or at least it's too late for now. Now you have to be strategic. You have to start building things so that if you do happen to feel threatened, there's an entire strong inner structure that has then branched out into other structures, other foundations, other everything, nonprofits, just growing and growing and growing. I would also like to suggest that for any of these Pagan or Wiccan type organization structures, foundations, think tanks, whatever it is, get involved, make a crypto coin, make a bunch of them. No need to be afraid of the digital market. Find any ways we can to raise money to help with unity. So, what I'm saying is this. Whatever you call or whatever you want to refer to our very loosely connected group as, it's important to remember that the other groups have this type of organization. As I mentioned before, the churches, the temples, the schools, the foundations, the economic-based charities, elderly care, help, etc., etc., etc. Some studies have shown that we are the fastest growing spiritual movement in America, or at least one of them. So imagine how strange it must look from the outside that the fastest growing spiritual movement is completely ignoring the building of structures that other movements use successfully, use strategically. Again, at this point, we're not really a united front, so I don't know what the Christians are so scared of. Anyway, but one thing that I think, and just one part of the equation internally, that's one of our simple dividing factors, our simple dividing principles, is perfectionism, refusing to join or even respect other pagan groups or people unless every subtle thing is agreed upon. To them I say this: nothing is perfect, and there is no right time to act that's coming to the future. The forces of domination, they're not concerned with perfection. They are concerned with victory. They are concerned with strategy. They are concerned with winning. Just like in your regular personal life, perfectionism, getting all the details right before you act, is fear and weakness dressed up in an Armani suit with a $20,000 watch. Oh, I don't act until everything's perfect. Well, good luck, because nothing is, and nothing gets done. So, at the end of the day, that becomes my point. Any group's best defense, the best plan of action, is to become so internally strong that it doesn't even matter who is in office or what misguided lawmakers, opportunists will even do. Forgive me. What we need is calmness, strategy, and structure. What we don't need is rage, perfectionism, and division. Anyway, I'm Daniel Michael. Have a good evening.